let's take a tour of the Weymouth Center for Arts and Humanities, which is located in the Boyd House that you are seeing right here. Now, the Boyd House is the home of author James Boyd, who was the writer of the novel called Drums, which was about the Revolutionary War, and he got a lot of great acclaim for his first novel. So we've just walked through the foyer and the entrance, and now immediately we are going to the library, which I was told is one of the most favorite rooms in the entire house, and I fully agree. There is a 1928 illustrated edition of his first novel that is located in this library, and all the other books are original books from the Boyd collection. Now, from the library, we are going out into the garden room. Now, this was an addition to the house after the original home had been built. But in addition to this just being a wonderful light-filled room, there's a lot of history behind here. Their son, the Boyd's son Daniel, apparently kept his 7-foot gopher snake in this room, and that was a gift from the Bronx Zoo. Now, also in this room, Daniel kept his model trains and his villages. He would later go on to become a city planner in California, so it was time well spent. Now, we're coming back through the library. Keep in mind that all throughout this house, you are able to actually sit on the furniture, and that's just kind of a fun thing to do, is to sit in the library, pretend that you're, reading a great book. Now, this is the original staircase. There is so many wonderful windows all throughout this property leading onto the grounds. Now, this home is a Southern Colonial Revival house, and it was constructed in 1920 to 1921 by a famed New York architect. Now we are in the great room, and this is a huge room. It is 21 feet by 54 feet, and this fireplace is one of the statement pieces in this room. There are 2 oil portraits of James Boyd's grandparents, who actually were the founding purchasers of this property. They are hung in this room. And now we are walking from the great room into the dining room. This dining room was only lit by candlelight when it was being used by the Boyds. There is a lot of great woodwork in here and a lot of local pine that is used in this room. Again, these are some of the first views that you're going to see of the garden rooms that have been constructed outside of the house. They're very elegant and landscaped gardens, very beautiful to look through. So be sure to spend enough time at this location so that you can go out to the gardens and appreciate them. So we are going to be going back through the great room. And in that great room, one funny story is that there was a huge man sleeping in front of that fireplace one morning. Turned out to be author Thomas Wolfe, who came to the house, couldn't find a way in, and snuck in through an open window, fell asleep in front of the fireplace. Now, Thomas Wolfe is known in Asheville as a famous author, so that is kind of interesting. Now, coming up the staircase, at the top of the staircase are going to be photographs. These are photographs of what the home originally looked like, how it was originally furnished. So it is nice to stop and look at those and compare to how the house looks today. Now, the Boyd House is actually a place for writer residencies. So what is coming up on the right-hand side is a bookcase of all of the authors that have been a writer in residence at this house. And a little bit in the video further ahead, we'll go by the rooms that the writers use in residence. So a bit more about the architecture of the Boyd House as we are looking through this really, really beautiful room. Again, another one that is filled with natural light. So James Boyd was the grandson of James Boyd Sr., who was a Pennsylvania railroad magnate. And he is the one that purchased 1,500 acres on this land, and then it served as a winter retreat for his family for 70 years before the grandson, James Boyd, decided to live here permanently. Now, what you are looking at, this room, reflects the fact that James Boyd, along with his brother Jackson, founded the Moore County Hounds in 1914. Now, the Moore County Hounds is about fox hunting and those traditions, and the equestrian traditions really are strong at this property and in the Southern Pines, North Carolina area in general. Now, as you go through this room, you'll see a lot of memorabilia that has been donated by the community. What was really interesting was flipping through these photographs and seeing actual photographs of the Boyds and other community members during the hunts and after the hunts, and just really interesting look at history and how the equestrian theme has kind of woven through the history of this land and this family. Now, 400 acres of this land were donated to the state of North Carolina, and they became the Weymouth Woods Nature Preserve. And so preserving these longleaf pines are so important to the Boyd family. Now, we are getting ready to walk towards the North Carolina Literary Hall of Fame. But first, on the right-hand side, this is going to be that entrance for where the writers in residence work and where they live while they are at the Boyd House. Now, entering this room, this is the home of the North Carolina Literary Hall of Fame. Now, the Hall of Fame was established by the North Carolina Department of Cultural Resources, and it is a way that it showcases the North Carolina writers and poets of the area from across the decades. You will be able to find works from inductees into the Hall of Fame. There is some literature that explains probably the poets and the authors that might not be as familiar to you. You might not know their names, like O. Henry and Maya Angelou, who are members of the Hall of Fame. So you can learn a bit more about the artistic endeavors of those that have been inducted. This was a great center for literary greatness, so to speak. James Boyd was renowned in his own right, but he had friends like F. Scott Fitzgerald and Thomas Wolfe that would come to the home. Now we are outside and we are going to be exploring those grounds of the estate. It is now 26 acres and there are established gardens. You can walk down into these garden rooms. At the end of the rooms, you're going to find where the old swimming pool used to be. And that swimming pool has now been created into a wonderfully calming and peaceful water feature where you can sit and relax. Now, the Boyds were so interested in preserving this land because it is the gateway to the oldest virgin longleaf pine forest in the world, and there is still replanting of longleaf pines here as invasive plants are being removed.